Tangerine, 2015, was directed by Sean Baker. The latter made an excellent movie that I saw back then called The Florida Project, starring Willem Dafoe. He is an independent filmmaker and has made a movie that makes me feel incredibly guilty that I have not made a movie yet. Because Tangerine is an American independent movie that was shot with an iPhone 5. And shockingly enough, the result is an absolute achievement. He uses a lens that basically makes it look like it was cinematic. And ultimately, it looks a lot more cinematic than a lot of YouTube videos do, even if they may be either shorter or longer. And the film is an hour and 27 minutes long, so it's not that long. And it reminds me a lot of the movies of John Cassavetes, which is a strong compliment because I believe that I think that John Cassavetes is one of my all-time heroes. There are a few heroes in my life, and one of them is John Cassavetes. The second is Charles Bukowski, George Carlin, and John Cassavetes belong to one of my all-time favourite heroes, and there is a lot of significances to his movies. Tangerine stars Maya Taylor and Nikki Rodriguez, and Kitana Rodriguez. I think I'm pronouncing their names right. They, interestingly enough, were both transvestites who were sex workers. And what happened is that the director decided to hire them to play the two central leads because the film tells the tale of two transvestites, and basically one of them gets cheated on from their pimp after she is released from jail. But yeah, so basically one of the pimps decides to cheat on one of the central leads. I think it's played by Kiki Rodriguez, and she basically goes on the hunt to find the pimp. That's pretty much what the plot is. And there is a side plot of a taxi driver, an Armenian taxi driver, I think, cheating on his wife, and this is set in Christmas Eve. And the result is something that is melancholy, but also utterly hilarious and completely believable, that is reminiscent in a way of the earlier films by Nicholas Winding Refn, especially the Pusher trilogy. It's in that same style, a lot of handheld shots, very energetic, very straight to the point, and very convincing in its performances, because these characters and the real life people that are portraying them were those characters before they were actually picked for the roles. And interestingly enough, the film was highly praised, and the secondary character played by Maya Taylor won an independent award. Yeah, it is visually strong, and there was a question. I was wondering, how the hell did they manage to shoot nighttime with an iPhone 5 in that way, because there's a lot of stylistic flourishes, because even though it was shot by an iPhone 5, because I've seen the Florida Project years beforehand, Sean Baker's stylistic flourishness still allures into the way this film was shot. It results in a very somewhat cinematic movie. It would have been interesting if I saw this film in cinemas, but back then, it wasn't probably well known in France, for that matter. But it probably was well known in the United Kingdom, but I just never heard of the movie, and I probably didn't even heard of Sean Baker back then. I'll tell you this, the character, without spoiling anything, who plays the pimp, I think his name is James Ransom, is utterly hilarious in this film, convincing, and also I've met people like that. They kind of talk like this, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, fucking this and fucking that. They always say the F-bomb every time they're trying to describe something. Utterly hilarious. He's not in it that long, but he is really, really funny in it. As one of the central characters goes on the hunt to try and hunt down the pimp that cheated on she. I don't want to say she or he. I'm trying to find the right words. Tries to find the person, and it results into one huge hilarious climax. It's not a long film. It's entertaining. You might have to stomach some of the themes and context, since it deals with a lot of prostitution, and sometimes it is really ugly, but yet it's a very melancholic movie. But again, melancholy put into a drain of sunlight, and somehow the film is optimistic in a strange, poetic way, you could say. And that's the greatness of this not so long movie, especially since it was shot from an iPhone 5, which just makes me more eager to try and make myself a short film, or at least a feature film that long, only like an hour and a half long. But it's that sort of film that inspires other more determined filmmakers to make a movie. It's not a long film, it's entertaining. You might have to stomach some of the themes and context, since it deals with a lot of prostitution, and sometimes it is really ugly, but yet it's a very melancholic movie. But again, melancholy put into a drain of sunlight, and somehow the film is optimistic in a strange, poetic way, you could say. And that's the greatness of this not so long movie, especially since it was shot from an iPhone 5, which just makes me more eager to try and make myself a short film, or at least a feature film that long, only like an hour and a half long. And I don't even own an iPhone 5. Do you see what I mean? But it's that sort of film that inspires other more determined filmmakers to make a movie. And so that's why, all in all, I would say this film is alive, it's energetic, it's utterly convincing and believable. The two central characters, who basically are not as professional as, say, Tom Hanks, deliver even more convincing performances than, say, I don't know, Vincent Landon or Denzel Washington, because they are truly believable. And they are underrated in that retrospect. And now, as I think of it, coming to think of the films of Refn and even John Cassavetes for that matter, a lot of the time these sort of unknown actors are always more convincing than, say, the far more veteran actors for that regard. And therefore, that's why I found the film very convincingly strong and alive and visceral and energetic, and never, ever tedious, despite some of the taboo, despite some of the themes being somewhat difficult to stomach. And that's why I give Sean Baker's Tangerine a 4 out of 5. A pleasant 4 out of 5. Could have been a 3.5, but ultimately, now as I think of it, because of its filmmaking techniques and because of all the work done into this sort of almost short film or medium length film piece, I have to give it a 4 out of 5. So, if you enjoy my video, please subscribe, put a like, and there you go. Thank you. Au revoir, arrivederci, ciao.